Hey everyone, this is a shorter video about a specialized aspect that's over us from November 9th through the 14th. I've been doing these shorter videos and I really like them because they allow me to explain shorter transits or smaller transits in a shorter amount of time. This is an all sign, which means that if you ask me in the comments about a specific sign, I will provide you more information. If you ask me and I just like your comment, it means that I've already answered about that sign somewhere else. It also takes me a couple days to answer, so be patient with me as I get used to this process. So come back to the video and check in a couple days. I want to know how you guys like this format. Let me know how it's suitable for you, or what your preferences are. I really like it. I think it's a way for us to sneak in certain features or transits that we normally couldn't do otherwise. This transit is incredibly helpful. It's a healing transit that actually is happening in the context of other transits that are happening around us that might actually deter from progress. So this transit gets at the root of certain things, and because it's so rare, it's likely that it's like a fleeting opportunity for some breakthrough to happen. So I'm going to walk you through it, and then if you guys have questions about a specific sign, ask me in the comments and I'll reply to those later. So this is called a yod formation, which is a sextile between Chiron and Jupiter. And as the sun transits in the last degrees of Scorpio, it creates this sextile yod formation, which is also called the finger of God. It's considered like a focus energy from the base of Chiron and Jupiter, and we'll walk through what all that means in just a minute. But in an eagle eye view, it represents an increase in career opportunities and improvement in your public life. This helps with relationships and social connections, so more acquaintances. This improves your creativity and self-expression. Also, this is a moment in which you may experience personal growth and healing of the self. It's a time in which people may travel or explore different things or pursue different opportunities. So this yod itself is incredibly helpful. It's very rare because it won't happen again for at least 10 years, and it definitely won't happen in these signs again for much longer than that. So this is your opportunity to really get at the center of an issue and see the opportunities that are coming up for you now as ways to counteract whatever is limiting you or whatever is stopping you from getting what you want. We need to understand the sextile in the context of a planetary cycle. It's also called a synodic cycle, but essentially it's when Jupiter and Chiron join together in Aries in 2023, March 2023. This is a 13-year cycle, which means that it takes Jupiter 13 years to go around the zodiac and join Chiron again. And so this is a long-term transit. Because it's Chiron, it has a lot to do with healing and getting at the core of issues where we feel limited or where we feel without. Jupiter is incredibly benefic here, bringing help and progress to these most difficult positions. So every single aspect from Chiron to Jupiter is incredibly helpful and incredibly for our benefit, for our long-term benefit. This is the opening sextile, which means that it's the first aspect that Chiron and Jupiter will form through this 13-year period. So the sextile itself creates an environment in which we can have career breakthroughs. This is an opportunity to reinvent yourself in terms of your career and career opportunities. This is a time in which you may expand upon your relationships as you come out of your shell a bit more. So this is a time in which you can break the mold and start being more social or more interactive. Chiron in Aries has a lot to do with the sense of self. So Jupiter in a sextile in Gemini is very, very social. It's that connection, the network, growing and expanding. It's also a time of great creativity as you become more confident. Jupiter in Gemini, Gemini is the sign of communication, brings opportunities to you of creativity. That includes ideas that you come up with that are very helpful for you in the long term. This aspect, the sextile, inspires adventure. So as you come out of your shell a bit more, as things happen around you to bring hope and opportunities your way, you will feel more inspired to explore and just try different things. The next time there's a sextile between Chiron and Jupiter will be 2034, and that's going to be the closing sextile. It's actually going to form when Jupiter is in Pisces and Chiron will be in Taurus. So this will be in 2034. So this is the last sextile that we're going to see between the two planets for 10 years. And that second sextile is going to be the closing sextile. So it's going to be the waning or closing energy of that planetary cycle that began in 2023. Something interesting about that closing sextile is that Jupiter will be in Pisces at 28 degrees. This is where the eclipse was in September 18th, 2024. I pointed out already that 4 of the retrogrades next year finish up on that degree, in the last degrees of Pisces. There's a lot of synchronicities to do with this connection. And so here is another synchronicity in this planetary cycle when the last sextile, the closing sextile in 2034, will have one of the key planets, Jupiter, in that same position. We'll talk about that more in a little bit in a different video, because there's another connection to this position that's coming up that's really interesting. So keep that in mind if you watch me regularly. So one thing about this sextile that's really neat is that it's forming 3 times. So it formed in October 12th, I believe. Then it formed again on November 2nd, and then it will form next year on May 18th in 2025. So this is because of the speed at which Chiron and Jupiter orbit. They don't necessarily have the same orbital pattern, but there are periods in their orbit that sort of match the same. And so what we're seeing now is, even though they're sort of breaking that sextile, the exact position that happened on November 2nd, they're still relatively close and within 1 degree of each other. In 2034, when we have that second sextile between Jupiter and Chiron and Taurus, we're going to see that triple pass as well. So this to me heightens the energy. It emphasizes the healing properties of Jupiter onto Chiron. So Jupiter's property is communication in Gemini, communicating to the heart of the issue, to the heart of the self-esteem issue, to the heart of the issue of how you're defined by society, so speaking up for yourself. All of these things in that sextile are really helpful. And so you can look back to October 12th, November 2nd, and then look forward to May 18th as this long chain of pattern of communication, showing yourself, showing your face to the world. I'm not going to show my face. I'm not going to do a face reveal, guys, but maybe, who knows, right? But that was funny. But this sextile is going to be very helpful for you in terms of addressing the core issues that limit you. And in the context of some of these other transits, this sextile is really the foundation of a lot of healing. We'll get to that in a minute. The next time Jupiter and Chiron will form a conjunction, and this is just for your interest to see the synchronicity, is going to be on July 22nd, 2036. So, gosh, 12 years from now. And that's going to be at 16 degrees Gemini, and it happens to be within 3 degrees of where Jupiter is now. So I thought that was really interesting. So the 3 sextiles that I talked about between Chiron and Jupiter, October 12th, November 2nd, and May 18th, have a lot to do with reconnecting with all old acquaintances, revisiting past relationships so you can address the past. Sometimes past relationships hurt us in certain ways. They define us as what we don't want to be. And so whether it's directly meeting someone from the past or a similar situation and taking your power back, this is the dynamic of this sextile. So speaking to the past, right? either directly to someone or figuratively through some kind of gesture. It's also a time in which stagnant opportunities, especially if they've been influenced by shyness or limitation on you through where you stand in life, like if you don't have the means to do something but you've always wanted to do it, there could be opportunities that are coming your way to fuel this growth, to fuel this expansion. It's also a time when we put ourselves more out there because Jupiter in Gemini is very expressive. So this is a time, especially for those of you who are quiet or more reserved, this is when you really share your thoughts and your feelings, and you see that really increase. This is a time in which you can reconcile with family, and especially those of you who have people about your own age, so cousins, siblings, with whom you have difficult relationships. There could be healing that could actually in turn help those core definitions. A lot of people are hurt by their relationships to people their own age when they were growing up. And so hurt in the sense that they are defined by those relationships in some way, even if everybody's sort of innocent. But if everybody was sort of young and just growing up, certain things that define us may happen that may be very hurtful, Chiron and Aries. And so the sextile to Jupiter in Gemini is actually a great opportunity to spark reconciliation and an improvement of relationships. Gemini is the sign of the brothers, so we have that. It's also a time when you can really rediscover some dormant traits about yourself. So again, Jupiter in Gemini brings out characteristics that are otherwise hidden. And again, we're looking at Chiron and Aries. So like, what is hurt? Why are you not writing? Why are you not painting? Why are you not doing these things? Whatever activity you want to do. Those things may have been suppressed in the past through life experiences, and the sextile to Jupiter either presents you with an opportunity, like you go to a store and like your favorite paint set is on sale and you're like, don't mind if I do. There could be different kinds of circumstances that come into your life that actually really feed a solution to anything that is limiting you from living your full authentic self. And through that, it's moments of breakthroughs of creativity and self-expression. I don't know if you've noticed on my channel, but I've had massive breakthroughs. I've created a bunch of small little videos and like different formats, and things are going well that way. And I really have finally figured out certain things that I want to do that I was kind of stuck on. It wasn't a terrible block, but just so as an example. So there could be creative breakthroughs and self-expression in a variety of ways, and seek those opportunities under this sextile. It's a really nice sextile, and like I said, it started in October and it'll carry over into May. And even though they're not going to be exact the entire time, they'll sort of be swinging back and forth to each other, and that's a really nice dynamic. So what about the sun? So it's between November 9th and the 15th that the sun will be in these special degrees of Scorpio. And Scorpio is the sign of depth, right? And especially emotion, hidden things, which really synchronizes well with patterns, behaviors, being labeled certain things, or having different kinds of definitions that you live under, definitions that life has put on you, that maybe you have put on yourself. And so I love the Scorpio sun because in some way it illuminates those dark places and brings them to light and brings solutions to problems. A yod is a laser beam of energy. It's hyper focus. It's considered a very powerful dynamic. It's also the midpoint between Chiron and Jupiter. So the sun, when it's at 20 degrees of Scorpio, is in the middle position between Chiron and Jupiter. And so there's this really interesting dynamic between the two planets in sextile, Chiron and Jupiter, as they have this shared energy on the sun. So in practical matters, what does this mean? Bring out your true energy, your true image. Scorpio is the sign of authenticity. And so it's not that anybody's being disingenuous, but if you have certain blocks that have to do with self-esteem, that have to do with blockages, the sun brings it out. This is also amazing for bridging the gap between your friends and siblings and cousins. Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, the siblings, the brothers. And so at this time, deep-seated and complicated circumstances may have solutions. Water, which is Scorpio, heals and flows and can get through complicated crevices in rock. And that imagery sort of represents relationships as well. Complicated relationships, the Scorpio energy can enter into and address better than other energies cannot. So it's like the things deep inside, the things that are complicated. And in some of these relationships that we have, these early childhood education, early childhood experiences, the Scorpio sun can kind of get in there and get at the heart of the problem. And the nice thing about Scorpio is that it's not a logical sign. It's not an air sign. So it actually brings healing. So certain situations, certain dynamics between people, there is no logical solution to them. It might be an impasse, it might be a paradox or some other issue. But in close relationships, like siblings, like cousins, like people you grew up with, maybe there's a sentiment there, maybe there's a feeling that is important. And that feeling sort of trumps or supersedes the logic of it. So there are people that, how do I say this? You may have experienced difficult things with, however, and on the surface, you may not want to go through that, or it's unacceptable that certain things happened. But it's the irrationality of Sun and Scorpio in a way, but a healthy irrationality where even if logically it doesn't make sense, emotionally it may. It's also a time of confronting deep insecurities. So again, that depth of Scorpio sort of undercuts or supersedes or gets around the conditioning, because Chiron in Aries is a lot about lived experiences conditioning us into certain circumstances. And so the sun comes in this laser beam, says, you know, I have a deeper truth, a deeper answer. So it helps you kind of break down the layers of conditioning that you have experienced and find a more authentic truth in these circumstances. So this is a great time for breaking through conflict with other people, especially these long-standing relationships, things that go back decades or years. I think that with the sun in Scorpio and these aspects to Jupiter, which is the sign of communication, Gemini, and Chiron in Aries, there is this energy of forthrightness. So again, some people who are very quiet may choose to talk, but otherwise there may be also people who are reserved and don't say certain things. At this time, they feel compelled to say things. So this may provoke your relationships with people as they are compelled to speak on an issue with you, but in a healthy way, and to address it, to resolve it, to break through. And when we have deeper communication, then our bonds between each other grow deeper. And so therefore, this aspect is also good at deepening our bonds with each other. And of course, if you're an artist or if you're a musician, you know that these types of energies, like authentic, raw truth, is the thing of inspiration. How many people have broken up with someone or had some kind of dramatic event show up in their life? And it's at that moment when we see the truth and we have our creative moment. So many great songs have been written in heartache, heartbreak, and so forth, but also inspirational things. And so Scorpio is the sign of depth. Mercury is the Mercury. I keep saying Mercury because Mercury rules Gemini. But Gemini is the sign of communication, and Chiron really gets at the heart of things. So many artists will be compelled to create beautiful things at this time. And with depth comes drives and desires. And so this aspect also pushes people to pursue their desires, things that they would hold back on. It's a very daring combination. And it's a desire to turn to something of greater substance. So you're looking for something deeper, you're looking for something more significant or monumental. In the context of a relationship to other transits, this transit is the true healing potential of the current time, November 9th through the 15th. There are certain other transits that are going to make you really want to act out or respond to things that are happening around you. Namely, on the 9th, we have Venus squaring Neptune, which is sort of like a bubble burst on some illusion or delusion that we're engaged in. So illusionary thinking or fooling ourselves. There may be like an aspirational aspect to this where you're trying to reach for something that's not truly meant to be for you, and you in some way feel as though you already know, but you're still trying for it anyway, and sort of maybe even hurting yourself in the process. So Venus square Neptune is this rude awakening that's happening at the same time as this yod. And more importantly, a little bit earlier, but still the effects still ring true over the second week of November, is the Venus opposition to Jupiter. So I've made a video about this, but just to recap, that opposition, I said that maybe this opposition's problem was superficiality. Venus rebels for what she wants in Sagittarius, very happy-go-lucky. She's in the anti-Jupiter position, which is signifying the furthest position in the solar system away from Jupiter, and so in Jupiter's orbit. And so essentially it's suggesting that maybe some of the actions of the heart that we want to take aren't really good for us. And if you've been watching my Venus content, you know that in November is when all the harsh aspects happen on Venus. So in the context of Venus, we may be very reactionary and trying to push against the circumstances around us, leading us to not the best outcomes or consequences. So anti-Jupiter, less luck, or going against our best interest. And so it is that rebellion point. And so I think this sextile and the yod, so I'll take it back. Oops, I'm taking it back, sorry. And so I think this sextile and yod is actually the more helpful. It gets at the heart of the truth. It really looks to the bottom of the issue. It pushes you to look deeper at a situation, to face the issue, to face your relationships, and encourages you not to be afraid. If anybody knows Scorpios, you know that they're very brave. Like vulnerability is a brave thing, right? To be vulnerable, to be in your emotions, to be true to your emotions. These are all acts of bravery. And I believe because the next conjunction between Chiron and Jupiter is in 2036, this is a part of a long-term pattern of deepening of resiliency. So there's opportunities here for you to grow. I did a tarot card reading on these cards in the description. I'm doing it, so if you ever see a video like this, that's what I'm doing in the description, so in the context of the chart. And again, if you guys want to know something about your zodiac sign, let me know in the comments. But let me know how you like these videos. I like making them for you. Today, I made it because the sun's going to set, so I couldn't do like a regular all sign. Plus, we have several different transits together, so it's a way to kind of fill you in. And I do think this is a very healing transit. There's not another like aspect like this for a while, so enjoy it while you can get it. But the fortunate side is that in one way or another, the sextile between Chiron and Jupiter will continue till May next year, and it is that pattern of healing, the pattern of healing of the self, and seeing opportunities come through that are going to help you elevate and address those issues, mostly through communication. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.